Our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. He's weak and he's ineffective. So the only way he figures that he's going to get reelected, and as sure as you're sitting there, is to start a war with Iran. Now, I'm more militant and more militaristic than the president. I believe in strength. But to start a war in order to get elected, and I believe that's going to happen, would be an outrage. I'm more militant. I'm more militant. I'm more militant.
Hello, Yang Gang. Hello, America. This is Naman. Welcome to Make Me Think Harder channel. Andrew Yang wants America to think harder. So I say, yes, sir. I'm going to make myself think harder, and I made this channel, Make Me Think Harder, to prove to fellow Yang Gang that I'm trying to think harder. But today I'm going to do something unusual and ask the viewers to think harder about our president of today and our president of the future. I thought hard, and I'm sure it is no surprise to anyone that I think Andrew Yang should be president of the future in 2020. Anyway, think about this. In this looming conflict with Iran, I guess already have, not looming, it's already there. With this conflict with Iran, who do you want as your president? I would argue that Andrew Yang would never have entered such a situation.
To me, it was a disproportionate response, and it's dangerously pushing us towards full-on armed conflict with Iran, which is not the will of the American people. So to me, we need to pull back. We need to de-escalate tensions in the region, protect our bases and embassies in the area. But bigger picture, this could have been avoided if we had stayed in the multilateral nuclear agreement with Iran that President Trump pulled us out of, which ended up leading to this series of provocations. We need to go back to first principles. In our Constitution, it says that it's an act of Congress to declare war, and that has not been the case since 2001. We've been in a constant state of armed conflict since 2001, and we need to push the power to declare war back to Congress where it belongs.
He will win who knows when to fight and when not to fight. Sun Tzu.
I have a three-part test for when I would intervene militarily. The first is that there needs to be a vital national interest at stake or the ability to avert a clear humanitarian catastrophe. Number two, there needs to be a well-defined timeline where we can bring our troops home. And number three, we need to have partners and allies that are willing to join us in the mission. If these three conditions are satisfied, then I would consider engaging our troops. But it needs to be a very high threshold.
I already made a couple of videos about how Andrew Yang might be a student of Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu's philosophy in Art of War is a brutally honest philosophy that has derived from people and state wanting to survive confrontation, like wars. And yet, it is consistent with Andrew Yang's humanity first policy, I think. How? Sun Tzu is a man of war. It's hard to fathom that he learned all those military strategy by books. This is 3,000 years ago. He didn't have an internet, and I don't think he had a great library to learn all those strategies from the books. Much of it, I think, came from his experience. Obviously, he's a smart person, so he may have had many victories, but I think he also had a good amount of defeat to come to this wisdom that he had in this book, Art of War book. Much of his teaching is about avoiding war. Much of his teaching in his book is about winning without fighting. Not completely destroying his enemies. Matter of fact, saving their resources for future use. So he's not about destroying enemy forces, but winning over enemy forces, making allies, finding common grounds, common vision with these people that you may have conflict with. This type of teaching really aligns with men of peace like Gandhi, Buddha, Martin Luther King, Christ. We Yang Yang know all about Andrew Yang's conflict with MSNBC.
You are with us tonight, but I'd be remiss if I did not mention you were also invited on MSNBC this weekend, and you turned down that invitation and instead took to Twitter to slam the network, a decision that could be seen as risky during a Democratic primary. We're showing one of those tweets here, which reads in part, was asked to appear on MSNBC this weekend and told them that I'd be happy to after they apologize on air. What exactly do you want an apology for?
Well, Anna, Americans tuned in to the debate earlier this week, and they saw that I got called on less than any other candidate, including candidates that I'm polling higher than. And the questions I did get had virtually nothing to do with the core ideas of my campaign. And if this were an isolated incident, that would be one thing. But if you go back over the last number of months, MSNBC has literally omitted me from over a dozen fundraising and polling graphics, which it's not about me. It's about the 300,000 plus Americans who've donated to and support my campaign, and the millions of Americans who know we need to rewrite the rules of the 21st century economy to work for us. Think about those people donating $10, $20 of their hard-earned money to put a candidate on the stage and then have MSNBC virtually ignore me for 32 minutes, or when they tune into MSNBC to see how we're doing in the polls, it's like I don't exist. And you can go through the records, you can see they've done it to me over and over again. And I'm not the kind of guy who takes offense easily, but at this point you have to call it like you see it.
I was so frustrated with MSNBC. OMG. I don't think I would ever come to forgive them. I still have a hard time forgiving them. When AY boycotted, we go, yeah. At least I went, yeah. We don't need them. I even wrote I even made a video about how social media is winning over mainstream media. Like champions of social media, even like Trump on Twitter and AOC, Andrew Yang. These guys are champion of social media, and they're using social media and not using mainstream media to build their base. And so, yeah. I was thinking, we can do this without them. But not too long later, Andrew Yang canceled his boycott and he conducted an interview with MSNBC. What's his name? Chris Hayes.
And joining me now is Andrew Yang, Democratic candidate for president. It's good to have you.
Chris, great to see you. Happy holidays. Thank you for having me on.
There is no instance of a nation benefiting from a prolonged warfare. Sun Tzu. I'm sure many Yang people were upset with that. You know, Andrew Yang didn't receive any apologies, any kind of other concession from MSNBC. Matter of fact, when Chris Hayes interviewed him, Chris Hayes was pretty harsh. I myself thought, why, Andrew, you are winning. You know, I know it was through NBC, it's two different company structure, but they are related. And through NBC, MSNBC, in my mind, was conceding defeat when he went to Ellen DeGeneres show.
There is no way that anything that is happening is a coincidence right now.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hello.
Well,
Hello, everyone.
have a seat. I guess you heard me talking about you. What are you doing here?
I'm in town for the debates that are taking place here in Los Angeles on Thursday.
Oh, okay. So you're just in the neighborhood?
Yes, just in the neighborhood. I heard my name and came running.
You just wandered into the studio? Left that door unlocked again. All right. Your fans are going to be very excited. They're called the Yang Gang, and they have been more aggressive than the Swifties people. I mean, they've been blowing up my social media. I can put a video of me and Jennifer Aniston on, and they're saying, have Andrew Yang on, and I'll put a puppy on, and they're, have Andrew Yang on.
Well, I like both Jennifer Aniston and puppies, and the Yang Gang knows this, so thank you, Yang Gang.
Yeah. All right.
I thought that whole show was very symbolic. MSNBC sees Andrew Yang as intruder to establishment. And indeed, Andrew Yang is intruder to establishment. Ellen forgot to lock the door. Just like MSNBC forgot to put up all those charts that they should have for Andrew Yang. Because of a Yang Gang, Ellen allowed the intruder to enter as a guest. To me, that was a huge concession by MSNBC. The general who advances without coveting fame and retreats without fearing disgrace, whose only thought is to protect his country and do good service for his sovereign, is the jewel of the kingdom. Sun Tzu. Would Trump retreat if it means protection for our country but disgrace for him, just to protect our country? Will he let his pride do that? Is he a jewel for this nation? Do you really believe that? Think about it. It didn't matter to Andrew Yang that he was disgraced by going back to NBC. I know these are two different things. One is about life and death situation with Iran, and MSNBC situation is not a life and death. It's just a campaign situation, whether we get a fair shot at the election or not, which it could end up being life and death eventually. But look at the two men. Who has the humility? Who has the pride that they cannot control? Who will sacrifice our lives, our kids' lives, young men's lives, for a pride? Who will think about gains of this engagement with Iran? What gains do we have? What benefit do we have by engaging them in this way, escalating this conflict? What is to be gained by a nation? What is to be gained by a person, a president?
But before we enter into a single new war, there's a criterion that ought to be met. Our leaders should explain to us how that conflict will make the United States richer and more secure. There are an awful lot of bad people in this world. We can't kill them all. It's not our job. Instead, our government exists to defend and promote the interests of American citizens, period. That's why we have a government.
I have a three-part test for when I would intervene militarily. The first is that there needs to be a vital national interest at stake or the ability to avert a clear humanitarian catastrophe. Number two, there needs to be a well-defined timeline where we can bring our troops home. And number three, we need to have partners and allies that are willing to join us in the mission. If these three conditions are satisfied, then I would consider engaging our troops, but it needs to be a very high threshold. I speak to veterans here in Iowa and across the country, and many of them are still struggling. To me, the investment has to be when you recruit men and women into the armed forces, but then it has to persist after they come home. Our resources right now are heading to things that are not making our people stronger or more secure.
Andrew Yang is always about fighting Pat out to MSNBC.
Why don't you do this? Go right to camera one and say, hey, MSNBC, the only time I agree with Trump is when he's talking about MSNBC.
Wow. I would not put it that way.
Come on, dude, I'm trying to... Look, you're what at 6%?
Yeah, I'm at,
if you
I'm
get
at
the beef popping, I guarantee you'll go to 8%. If you really swing dick at MSNBC, dude, you already have the internet. They'll go crazy.
Look,
Reddit loves you.
I gotta give them a road back because
Just go
after
raw.
I'm president, I'm gonna be doing interviews with them. We gotta give them the path back. But MSNBC, just come clean and say, look, mistakes were made. Let's put this behind us so we can get to the business of beating Donald Trump in 2020.
Build your opponent a golden bridge to retreat across.
Sun Tzu. What does it mean to offer a golden bridge to the enemy for them to escape? Sun Tzu is saying, do not engage the enemy forces that are cornered in. Cost will be too much for our army. Enemy will fight twice, 3 times as hard when they're cornered in, when there's no hope for them. And all they can do is fight back. Offering them an escape route will give them hope. Will give opportunity for both armies to not take any more damages. Both armies to survive. Our President Donald Trump has not provided that to Iran. All he's saying is submit to us. We're more powerful than you guys. We don't have to prove that, guys. We don't have to prove that the United States is more powerful than Iran. We all know this. There's nothing to be gained by doing this. Pride. Donald Trump already has projected this. He thinks this is a valid move for a desperate person. And he is desperate. Donald Trump is desperate. And I just pray that Iran will not act in kind and retaliate, because then too many lives will be lost again, and we don't want that. It's not worth it. What is to be gained by it?
If voters are undone by this, how do you argue that your experience is better in the Oval Office than someone like Vice President Joe Biden with his foreign policy portfolio, or someone like Pete Buttigieg who has a military background?
As Commander-in-Chief, I will be focused on the greatest threats of the 21st century, which include state actors like Iran, yes, but also climate change, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity. These are issues that, frankly, an extra aircraft carrier may not help secure us against. To me, those are the real challenges of this time, and that is where I would lead us as president.
We are getting behind in technology. We're not going to be number one for long. When AI comes around, when our government is too old to understand the brand new technology, we're going to lose. We're not going to be number one in the world. We need someone in there that knows about AI, who knows how to conduct art of humanity. And that's Andrew Yang. Till next time, I'm out.